Thank you, everyone. And Jan, thank you for inviting me here. Where is Jan? There you go. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. And I know I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Missouri Constitution, even with Tom here. What am I doing that for, right, Tom? I want to tell you a little bit about something that's happened this week. Most notably, this week, I think it was Tuesday or maybe Wednesday, I don't remember which, 2 New Yorkers had concealed and carry, and they were charged, right? Because you can't conceal and carry, protect your own self and your family in New York, right? Well, they took umbrage to that charge, and their case was escalated to the Supreme Court and finally decided in their favor. Now, this is what's really cool, because New York, or the Supreme Court said, it doesn't matter whether you're New York or not, but you have a fundamental right, a God-given right to protect yourself, your property, and your family. And the premise of this case was that New Yorkers, their government and court said they had to have a specific reason to be able to conceal, carry, and protect themselves. How outrageous is that? So that was a great case and a good decision by the court. Now here's the one that causes me both joy and sadness at the same time, because yesterday you probably all celebrated in the fact that the Supreme Court finally reversed Roe v. Wade, right? After 49 years. And that you can applaud if you'd like to. What really gets my goat is, then why did it take 49 years for the correct decision to be made? And received, because the court of 1973 just pulled something out of thin air saying that a woman has the right of conscience to kill a child, a developing human baby in her body. Well, cast aside all the opposition, support and opposition for that case. Did you know that there are 3 branches of government? We could probably name them: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. They are all co-equal branches, right? No, they're not. I heard that. Thank you for whoever said that first. They are not co-equal branches. If you consider the authority vested in each of those branches, look at the Constitution. Article 1, great dissertation on what the authority that the Congress has, the House and the Senate. By the way, the House and the Senate are both called the Congress. For some reason, we've gotten into our minds we call a congressman a representative and a senator a senator. They're both congressmen. They're both representatives. Oh, well, I'll get off that tangent. But what if, let me get back to that, though. The authority given to the legislative branch is clear. They have 17 enumerated powers. I hope you'll take a look at Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, because that authority given to the Congress has been so far stretched, it's like Swiss cheese. So many holes in it, they usurp their authority to no end. That needs to be restrained. The second is to the presidency, few and defined powers, and in the courts. You know, there's only one court required by the Constitution. You know which that court is? The Supreme Court of the United States. Did you know all the inferior courts are at the whim of the Congress? In fact, how many justices are required by the Constitution? There are no required number of justices. I think it was Representative Stephen King from New York years ago said that if the Congress wanted to, they could reduce the Supreme Court to 1 justice in the basement of the Supreme Court building with a card table lit by candlelight, if they wanted to. The Congress just doesn't have the backbone to do it, but they could if they wanted to. So here's my premise in building that whole scene there. 49 years ago, had a U.S. House member or a U.S. Senator had the gumption to say, Supreme Court, you have gotten it so wrong, it's not even funny. Here's a bill that we're going to pass and correct your numbskull decision. Just think of how many children would be alive today. I want to make one more point. 64 million, I think, was the last estimate on how many babies have died over the last 49 years. That's not the whole story. 64 million people would now be in their 40s, of childbearing age. Even if only half of those had one child, that's well over 100 million. And wait, those children would be of childbearing age, and if they only had one child, hundreds of millions, if not more, have been killed.
Yep.
Now, while we celebrate, we should be grieving. We should be pleading to our God, saying, God, forgive us for not having the gumption to stand against tyranny. Is it over? Not by a long shot. Because guess what? I could call a physician today and say, I need a prescription. Now, we ban abortion in Missouri, absolutely. I don't think we have a grip on it, on that part. We've got to work on that too. And of course, in the end, it's the hearts and minds of people who need to be changed. And until that happens, of course, sin's going to be rampant anyway. Okay, I feel better. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Missouri Constitution. I think you might have on your agenda that I call this the deep, dark secrets of the Missouri General Assembly. Well, maybe kind of, sort of. We may talk a little bit about that, and if I lose my mind, we'll talk a lot more about it. But what I want to tell you a little bit about is the reality we have, your responsibility. What, if any, resolutions there might be. I want to educate you, expose some of the deep, dark secrets we have, evaluate those, encourage you primarily, because I think that's why you're here. Because you have had someone light a fire under you. I don't know what it was exactly, but whatever it is, I'm so grateful that you are not sitting at home, that you're here, you're learning, and you're involved. I didn't get this loaded up, so I'm not going to talk about that. There's a video, if you want to find this link, I'll share it with you later if you want to know it. So just talking about the different forms of government and how we have strayed from our Republican form of government here in the United States. And I just gave that answer. What type of government do we have? If you look in your constitutions, by the way, I saw many of the Missouri constitutions on the table. That's cool. If you look in the back, you'll find a copy of the U.S. Constitution and compare the size. It's like a 1/16 of an inch or so for the U.S. and a good inch for the Missouri Constitution. Way too much stuff in the Missouri Constitution by far. But if you look at Article 4, Section 4, you'll find that we are guaranteed by our Constitution a republic. And what does that mean? That means that you don't have to go to Jefferson City or Washington, D.C. and cast a ballot or cast a vote on every single issue. You can advocate your wishes and your desires through a representative, whether it be a senator or a House member, and they can vote on your behalf. Are you going to get 100% agreement? No, probably not. In fact, you're probably going to be discouraged in a lot of ways because the person you've elected isn't doing what you want them to do. More about that later. But in any case, you do have an opportunity to cast a ballot. Now, that brings me to an important topic right now here and today, where there are candidates, even in this room, running for a variety of different positions. This is your opportunity to know them, to meet them, to ask them questions, to vet them, so to speak. Find out what they believe, because what they believe is how they will act when they're elected. Or at least you hope they will. And when they get elected, if they're fortunate enough to do so, you need to pay more close attention to them than before they were elected. Because now they have a responsibility. And their responsibility is to abide by the Constitution first, and then what is a proper form of government, and then to act that out by way of the bills they introduce, the votes they cast, the speeches they make, and those sorts of things. So don't let anybody tell you that we're a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Right? Now, it's important to know the rules, and that's why I'm glad you have a copy of the Constitution with you. The Missouri Constitution, Article 1, states very clearly that in order to assert our rights, this is the preamble, by the way, acknowledge our duties, proclaim the principles on which our government is founded, we declare. And I encourage you, when you read any of these in the preamble, the Missouri Bill of Rights, that you preface it each and every time with the preamble. It'll make a lot more sense if you do. And the first one is that all political power is vested in and derived from the people. Folks, that should send a really strong message to you. You hold the power. Just because you elect me or anyone else to a position of authority, an elected position, doesn't mean that you gave any of your power away. You have 100% of it. And if you hold the power, guess what you can do? You can fire me at your will. And you should, if I don't do what you want me to do. And even if I'm not your senator over your elected or your particular district, you still have a say, in my opinion. To the chagrin of some, I try to listen to many, and that gets me in trouble too, because I like what I hear statewide. And it's great, I think. And if we can continue this momentum, boy, what will our future in Missouri be? I think it's looking pretty good. But we can't rest on the laurels of one victory, getting Don Kiroff out, or whatever it might be, and say, oh man, that was good, and then go home again and just say, well, I did my duty. This is a never-ending battle. It continues that all government of right originates from the people, is founded upon their will only, and is instituted solely for the good of the whole. This is all put together there. That's a powerful liberty there, that right that you have as a Missouri resident. I think that's great. So let's continue on to section 2. Now I'm not going to put the preamble in it this time, but I encourage you to in the future, that all constitutional government is intended to promote the general welfare of the people, that all persons have a natural right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the enjoyment of the gains of their own industry. Jim? That all persons are created equal and are entitled to equal rights and opportunities under the law. This particular Bill of Rights here is one of the most important, because it has lots of good stuff in it. First, we have the right to life, liberty, and property, protect our life, liberty, and property, and pursue the happiness and enjoyment of the gains of our own industry. Jim Lemke and I were talking earlier about the gas tax and how this is a total slap in the face to this right here. That they have taken our hard-earned money against our will. In fact, we told them no back in 2018, but yet Dave Schaaf and his guys want to do it again, and they won today. I still regret not standing longer. That all persons are created equal and entitled to equal right and opportunity of the law. I refer to this last segment here as the Equal Opportunity Clause, or equal application. All the laws that are passed by the Missouri General Assembly must treat everyone equally. I've got some examples here that I'll show you in a few minutes. But when a law is passed or deliberated, keep that in mind. Because if we're going to tax someone here, but not here, take for example, FIFA. I don't know if you remember that when it was just signed into law this week, I think. Governor Parsons traveled up to Kansas City. What it does is it gives all those ticket buyers to the World Soccer Cup soccer event no tax. That was FIFA's requirement. If you want us to come to your city, you can't employ that tax. Well, why not give everybody the same tax break, right? We could have, but we didn't. And I believe I'll argue that point to J.J. Rizzo, the Democrat proposing the bill. Besides, Democrats proposing bills like that? And the other thing is, a $50 million investment that Missouri has to make, there's no guarantee that that's going to be paid back. So it likely will be, but again, my point is, why not give it to everybody? And that way it'd be fine. Section 2, again, says that to give security to these things is the principal office of government. That when the government does not confer the security, it fails in its chief design. Folks, we have failed. We have failed you. Now I'm going to throw it back on you. If we have failed you, whose responsibility is to hold us accountable?
Us.
Absolutely. I'm going to look. This is a rhetorical question, but I'm going to ask it now and probably several other times. What are you going to do about it?
We're going to start speaking up as well.
Yeah. Be active.
And all those are good if you can put that to the foot and get traction out of it. And you've got to grow the ranks. You've got to grow the numbers, and you have to be unified in your message. You have to let us know as legislators that we are not going to tolerate this violation of our rights. I mean, who gave you the right anyway? Was it Governor Parson? Was he the one who signed that right into law? No. He didn't? I thought he did. Who was it then? Who? Who said that? What are you talking about this one, is it? That is exactly right. God gave us the right. A fundamental purpose of government is to protect the God-given rights. It's not to grow infrastructure. It's not to take your money away through taxation so that we can provide more programs. We have far exceeded, government has far exceeded our authority. And it's high time that we set the government on its heels and say, you're enough. Now, the only way to do that is to elect the right people. And then, once you elect the right people, because I've seen some of the right people get in, and then whether it's a promise or whether it's like, oh, I don't think I can do that. I'm telling you what, there are those days where you wonder, should I speak? Or should I just hide in the corner? Those days happen. And if that happens to someone that you elected and you have authority over, you need to grab them as close as you can and say, I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. We're going to put someone in your place unless you shape up or you're going to be shipped out.
Amen.
This is our lives, folks. This is our liberties. And we can no longer tolerate these guys that are limp wrists. That's just no other way to put it. Weak spine people who say, well, I don't know if the speaker will like me anymore. I don't know if the president pro tem will refer my bill to a committee if I do that. Well, there's a good chance that won't happen. I'm attesting to that fact. Yeah. Folks, I'm 63 years old. And I have 5 children. Years ago, that's what got me excited about trying to get in and make a difference. And I failed. I failed because I didn't win. But I didn't stop. I continued on. Failed again. And then because of that, someone told me, well, now you have name recognition. Maybe you can win this race. and by the grace of God, it happened. And that's when the fun began. Let me tell you a little quick story. I was outside the speaker's office my first month, because I was just there 1 month back in April of 2013. I was elected in a special election. I don't know why we were standing out in the hallway, but someone leaned over to me and said, hey, you'll do fine. Just vote with the speaker.
Whoa.
And I leaned back and said, what'd you say? And he repeated it, and I said, are you serious? He said, yeah. And in my mind, I thought, the people of Lawrence County did not elect me to just go along with the speaker. And, you know, I don't know what would have happened had I been elected in November and then come to work in January. It might have been a totally different person. I wouldn't be up here standing probably. But I think it was providential that I was elected with only 1 month left in the session. Bills were coming fast and furious, and I had done some work in trying to understand them. But even then, when I'd vote no, because I couldn't either read the amendment or couldn't understand it, the speaker would send out his minions and try to proverbially twist my arm. And when they learned that I could defend my position, they stopped. But that, I think, is part of what got me into the doghouse anyway. Because I didn't vote with the party the majority of the time. I'm proud of that. I'm glad. And I'm not looking for kudos, but I'm just telling you, look at the circumstances. We should all be held accountable. If I had been a nutso and voted with the party every time, you should still be grabbing me close and saying, what do you think you're doing? I don't know if that would have happened. Fortunately, it didn't have to. And now here we are today. Religious liberty. I'm going to skip by this because you can look at that, Articles 1, sections 5 through 7. Oh, I got it. I'm going to have to tell you this. How many of you have heard of separation of church and state? And we should be separate, right?
No.
Ah, come on. What are you talking about?
Nope.
Well, have you read the letter that Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptists? Oh, Bert, good. If you haven't, I encourage you to, because there is a phrase in there where Jefferson talks about the wall of separation. Well, that's where people get now, the separation of church and state. Find it in the Constitution. I dare you. You can't, because it's not there. Well, Jefferson knew, because he had experience with the Church of England. The Church of England required that you either be a member and pay tithe to the church, or as a non-member, you had to pay a tax. Either way, you're going to pay. Jefferson knew the stranglehold the Church of England had on the people of England. He didn't want that happening in Virginia. And that's what they were wanting. And so he was warning the Danbury Baptists, you don't want this. You don't want the church of the state, or the state to have a church, and where you're subservient to it. That's what that was about in short terms. So read the letter and have the defense ready when someone talks about separation of church and state. There's just no such thing. Okay, now the preamble. When you talk about separation of church and state, you think that Missouri, the wise, great leaders of our state, would have said, you know what? Jefferson wrote the wall of separation, so let's just make that wall right here. We're not going to have anything to do with a creator God, right? No, that's not what they did. Here's what they wrote. We, the people of Missouri, with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe. Oh, they got it. They knew Jefferson wasn't talking about you had to separate your faith from the public politics. And grateful for his goodness to establish this Constitution for the better government of the state. That's powerful stuff. And so when someone says we need to separate ourselves, pull out the Constitution and say, tell me, if we're supposed to be separate, why is that in the Constitution? It would be interesting to hear what they say, but I don't think they can argue the point articulately. Now, this is one of my favorites. How many of you are farmers? How many of you like to grow vegetables? How many of you like to buy vegetables? How many of you like to eat vegetables? We're all consumers. So, right to farm here. Article 1, Section 35. Who gives our rights?
God.
God gives our rights. So we need to put in the Constitution, right? Absolutely not. Hey, here's my point. I get a lot of funny looks, especially from farmers on this one. Here's the way it reads, that agriculture, which provides food, energy, health benefits, and security, is a foundation and stabilizing force of Missouri's economy. I agree. It's the #1 industry. 80-something billion, I think it's 88 billion, I think it is, what it puts in, or what it generates. To protect this vital sector of Missouri's economy, the right of farmers and ranchers to engage in farming and ranching practices shall forever be guaranteed in the state. I agree with all that. Does it need to be put in the Constitution? Probably not. But if that were all of it, I'd say okay. That's not all of it. Subject to duly authorized powers. Who are those powers? You tell me. Because it could be anywhere from the Department of Natural Resources to the DHSS to anybody, to your local authorities, your commissioners. We set ourselves up for a complete failure. And I don't think we realize it. It's not too late, but I tell you what, changing the Constitution is miserably hard. And could we convince enough people that we made a mistake? I don't know.
Mike, when was that put in the Constitution, you know?
It was when I was in the House, 2014-ish, 2015. No, it might be in there somewhere. I don't know. 2014?
August 5th of 2014.
2014. Yeah. So, yeah, that's something that I think is detrimental to all of us, whether you're a producer or whether you're a consumer. This can have an effect on us. Okay, now this is where I really want to get to the nuts and bolts of it. Article 3, Section 1 talks about the legislature and the legislative process. And this is as an elected official where I get my marching orders, per se, for how bills can be drafted, how they can be amended, and how they can be passed. The first section says the legislative power shall be vested in a Senate and a House of Representatives to be styled the General Assembly of the state of Missouri. That's not quite exactly the way the U.S. House, U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 states that all legislative power herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall be a Senate and a House of Representatives. What that means in both situations is that the Congress or the House of Representatives, House of the General Assembly makes the laws. What did it leave out? It didn't say anything about the president making laws, did it? It didn't say anything about the courts making law. How about the agencies? Folks, we have a problem both at the state level and the federal level with agencies in particular, where we have ceded our authority, our lawmaking authority, to these agencies at the state and the federal level. They make rules and regulations, and you suppose they affect us at all? They absolutely do. In some way or another, you are adversely affected, mostly I'd say adversely affected, than you are in the good. And so we need to do something about that.
That's right.
I think it was 2015. I got something up my crawl and I thought, you know what, we need to do something about this agency power. And so I wrote a paragraph. I wrote this myself and I handed it to some folks, and a Democrat came to me and said, you know what, if this bill passes, what it did, let me tell you, it required that any rule or regulation promulgated or written and tried to be enforced by the House or the Senate would have to have the full support of the General Assembly. Why not, right? And so I started pitching the bill, and the most common response was, how much more work is this going to cause us? Like, you are kidding. Now, I don't know if I've got time, but let's see what time it is. Yeah, I may have just a little bit of time. JCAR. Anybody heard of JCAR? Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. This goes hand in glove here. I went to JCAR because they said all the rules, especially in the state, go to a 30-day comment period, as they do at the federal level. Then they're voted in by a committee, a joint committee, in this case it's the state, Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. So a lady named Cindy Cadillac was the executive director, full-time director for this part-time committee. And I said, tell me what JCAR does. She said, well, essentially what we do is we take these rules that have their 30-day comment period expired, and then the committee votes to either vote up or down. And I said, so what happens if they don't vote it up? She said, well, they go into effect. I said, really? How many rules do you normally see in a year? She said, about 1,800. So I took 1,800. So I took a calendar, took off all the weekends and holidays. It averaged out to more than 7 rules a day. 7 rules a day. This committee doesn't meet every day. And I said, by the way, when was the last time the committee met? 8 months.
What?
8 months. So multiply that by on average 7+ rules a day. You know, in a committee, if you can get through one bill, a substantial bill, and vet it thoroughly, deliberate it properly, you're doing pretty good. 7 ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So that lit my fire a little hotter. and I tried a little harder, and I filed the bill several different times. Just no interest in taking that authority back. So put that in the back of your mind. And especially if it affects you, that you can point to something that the Department of Natural Resources does, or something from the EPA, whatever federal branch it is, schools. Yeah, those rules go through JCAR too. Then maybe that could be something you could work on in your future. Oh, and there's the other from the U.S. Not going to talk about prohibited activities. This is Clean Missouri, all that kind of stuff. Let's go on here a little bit more. Qualifications of the House and the Senate. Go through that quickly. This is our oath that we take. Okay. Ha! The fun part, hopefully. Okay, I want you to join with me, and let's just pretend for a moment that we are the Missouri House. All of you are representatives. All of you have a say. I expect all of you to have a say. Now, if you're elected, you want a say, right?
Right.
Boy, you're eager. I'm glad. Hang on just a second. Oh, my goodness. Oh, hang on just a second. Okay, since you are all the House, did you notice these people waving? What happens in the House of Representatives is we seek recognition. And oftentimes the only way we're going to get it is to be the one standing out in the crowd. Okay? Now, whether you have a part in this that's been assigned already, doesn't matter. I'd like for you to participate if you will. Don't feel obligated. But this will be fun. This is just an exercise that will show you how a bill is passed. In large part, there are a few other intricacies that we're not going to cover perhaps, but let's have fun with it. So, we are the House of Representatives. We are in session. And the lady from the Carolyn District, for what purpose do you rise?
I move for the perfection of printing the HB1 bill.
The lady from the Carolyn District has moved for the perfection of printing of House Bill 1. Lady, would you like to explain your bill?
I just think vanilla ice cream with Butterfinger should have its own Recognition Awareness Day.
So the lady from the Carolyn District has moved for the perfection of printing of House Bill 1, which is titled the Missouri Vanilla Ice Cream Awareness Day. Any discussion on the bill? Any discussion? Yes.
I'm not too sure why.
Would you rise?
Oh, sorry. I'm not too sure why it should just be vanilla, or why we should even be recognizing ice cream.
Lady, you're referencing your question to the chair because I'm not recognizing any questions. Would you like to question the lady from the Carolyn District?
I would.
Do you accept the inquiry?
Could you please explain to me, first of all, why we're recognizing ice cream on this august body that makes laws for everybody in this state? Why are we even addressing this? Why is this important? And why would it only be vanilla with buttercream or Butterfinger? Best.
Get it right.
I don't know, help me out here. Because I like vanilla, I really like chocolate, so it could be chocolate day too. But anything with Butterfinger is great.
Well, I like pistachio. Could I get that in there too?
Sure can. Good choice. Yeah.
But do we really need to recognize the ice cream?
Lady from the Inquiry District, if you'd like, you could probably make an amendment to that, but appreciate your inquiry. Gentleman from the Tichless District, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to proffer before this august body House Bill 2 for the adoption of the chocolate ice cream amendment.
The gentleman from the Tichless District has moved for the adoption of House Bill 1 to House Amendment 1 to House Bill 1. Would you like to explain your amendment, gentlemen?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, as we all know, chocolate is the preferred flavor of the majority, overwhelming majority of citizens of our state. We consider this important. Oh, no. It is so important. I, in fact, in my own district, have surveyed my constituents and 98% say chocolate is their preferred flavor. Therefore, I wish to present this bill as chocolate ice cream is widely considered the best tasting summertime treat. It helps reduce stress. It makes people smile and be happier, put them in a better mood, and that hopefully via this amendment,
Gentlemen, your time has expired.
we can
Is there
make
any-
chocolate ice cream
Gentlemen, your
accessible
time
to
has
everyone.
expired. I'm sorry. Any brief discussion on the amendment? Gentlemen from the long sleeve shirt district, what purpose you rise?
I rise to protest this support of desserts in a state with so many people who do not have the proper education to learn that they don't need that much sugar and they don't wait.
The gentleman from the titular district has moved the adoption of House Amendment 1 to House Bill 1. All those in favor say aye. All
Aye.
those opposed say no. And the ayes have it. Further discussion on House Bill 1.
And that's
Further discussion on House Bill 1. Gentleman from the Russ District, for what purpose do you rise?
I have an amendment. I think we should be.
Gentlemen, you say you have an amendment?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a strawberry
The
ice cream amendment.
gentleman from the Russ District has moved for the House Amendment 2 to House Bill 1. Gentlemen, please explain your amendment.
So while chocolate and vanilla might be good, obviously strawberry is more healthy. It's a healthier choice, and we need to go with strawberries. Plus, we can grow strawberries here in Missouri ourselves. We don't have to source that out to anybody, so we should definitely be making the healthier choice of strawberry ice cream.
The gentleman from the Russ District has moved for the adoption of House Amendment 2 to House Bill 1. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. And the ayes have it. Lady from the Roxanne District, are you in the chamber?
Yes,
Lady, for what purpose do you rise, lady?
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of the Orange Sherbet Amendment.
The lady from the Roxanne District has moved for House Amendment 2 to House Bill 1. Lady,
Although
please
vanilla and
explain your
chocolate
amendment.
are kind of the most favored in Missouri. I believe that we need to move to even a more healthier version than the strawberry, although I understand that we can source it from here, but we can also, give some other states some business and bring in oranges and some other lemons, and it's creamier and more refreshing, especially during the summertime when we just really enjoy our ice cream sitting around the pool.
Further discussion on House Amendment 3. I restate my motion, House Amendment 3 to House Bill 1. Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting House Amendment 3 to House Bill 1 say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
And the ayes have it. Further discussion on House Bill 1. Further discussion. Lady from the Linda District, are you in the chamber? Thank you for rising. For what purpose do you rise, Representative Linda?
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of the title change.
The lady from the Linda District has moved for the adoption of the title change. Would you like to
I
explain
would
the
like
title
the title
change?
change to Missouri Dessert Awareness Day.
The lady from the Linda District has moved for the adoption of the title change. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. And the ayes have it. Lady, I understand you have an amendment. Would you like to introduce your amendment?
I do have. And the purpose for this change is that Missourians across the country, or across the state, have been calling my office. And not only are they in favor of vanilla ice cream, they're in favor of other desserts. And so we need to change the title of this to include desserts, such as peach cobbler.
The lady from the Linda District has moved for the adoption of House Amendment 4 to House Bill 1. Looks like she's explained her amendment, so we'll go ahead and go to the vote. All those in favor of adopting House Amendment 4 to House Bill 1 say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. And the ayes have it. Now, as funny as that seemed, that actually has happened. Now, there is one thing that you should be aware of. If you were an actual House member and you were aware of the rule, when you detected there was, I don't think he called that right, you could raise quickly, and only if you get recognition, because they don't have to recognize you in the House, you could call for 4 additional members standing and get a roll call vote. And that way, you could really see, was there really an approval for that? So that's one way to get over that. Interesting thing, I was in Vernon County recently, did this exercise. There was a representative, a current representative there, and the representative took objection to this because they said, well, we already have an ice cream dessert in Missouri. We don't need this kind of stuff. And I said, okay, lady, I understand what you're saying. We're talking about the function here and how things are done by protocol and the actual way it's done. Well, she said, I would have called for a roll call because what you're doing is not right. Light bulb moment? Why aren't you doing that every single day of the session? Because you have plenty of opportunities. Now you know. I think you know that these shenanigans are often carried out in real time at the risk of taking your liberties from you. Now, ice cream, I don't care about ice cream. You know, you can pass ice cream bills, you can pass highway naming bills all you want. It's a waste of time. But guess what? When we're doing stuff like that, we're not infringing upon your liberty.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, on a serious note, this is a serious business.
Yeah.
You pay folks like me to take what we understand and know about the Constitution and put it into practice to the point where we're passing laws that will likely affect you every single day of your life. Rhetorical question again. What are you going to do about it? Tom, I saw your hand, but before I recognize you, let me make sure that I got the rest of this done. I think I've got just a couple more things. Okay, Article 3, Section 21, no bill shall be so amended in its passage through either House as to change its original purpose. You know what? I didn't get my law degree. Do I need to be a lawyer to understand that?
Nope.
No bill shall contain more than one subject which shall clearly be expressed in its title. What was the title of the bill we had? Vanilla Ice Cream Awareness Day.
But what else is in it?
We amended it to include chocolate, strawberry, sherbet, and cobbler. And we actually had to change the title to put the cobbler in there. The title was changed.
Yep.
The purpose was changed. My friend Bob McEwen used to be from Ohio, U.S. Congress. He uses this phrase. I'll use it loosely because I know you're not. Any idiot can understand that. Yes, I think they can, Bob. And we should be able to. We as legislators often will skirt behind, well, you know, unless we're a little flexible on the Constitution, we'll never get anything passed. Well, let's don't pass anything then. Because we don't have authority. You haven't given me an authority to skirt outside that Constitution. Very quickly, Prop B. Prop B started in 2018 as House Bill 1460 when Gene Evans stated her introduction of a bill that would give certain Olympic athletes a tax deduction. Now, I don't have a problem with tax deductions. Besides, Olympic athletes work hard. Often that's their full-time job. Sometimes they have sponsorships, but that's beside the point. They win a gold, silver, bronze medal. They get a prize, a monetary prize attached to that. They deserve a tax break, right?
No.
Oh, come on.
No.
Special group.
Article 1, Section 2 is the equal application portion of the Constitution. And it says that all the laws we pass should be equally applied. How about the guy on the corner store?
Yep.
Does he get a tax deduction?
No.
Not in this bill. How about the mom or the dad raising children by themselves? Do they get a tax deduction? Not in this bill. So what happened to it was it went to the Senate. It sat there for 2 full months on the last, I think it was actually 3 when you look at it. It sat there till the last Wednesday of the last week of session. And Dave Schatz introduced a fuel tax increase. And I thought, what does a tax deduction and a fuel tax increase have to do with each other? Because one's reducing, one's raising. They were slick. They changed the title. to state revenue. And I thought, whoa, that's really slick because tax deductions, tax increase, all have to do with state revenue. But what about Article 3, Section 21 and 23? We violated it. So it's a flat no, right? When it gets to the ballot, you might remember the questions. First one was, do you want to give the State Patrol an additional $188 million of operating revenue? Where did that come from? But people like State Patrol. The majority of people said, yeah, let's check off that one. But then the second one was, you wanted to raise the fuel tax by 12.5 cents. And the third was, do you want to give certain Olympic athletes a tax deduction?
Oh.
Well, there's a conundrum. You can answer yes or no, but not 3 times, only once. Fortunately, taxpayers, the voters, were very wise. They voted it down. But then we ran it through your throat last year, or ran it down your throat. Senate 53, Bill 53 was last year's, it's one of my favorites too. Remember, one subject, which this is the original purpose of the bill, Kansas City Police Department residence requirements, which allowed Kansas City police officers to live outside their policing jurisdiction because oftentimes they would arrest their friends and neighbors. They would be called to domestic disputes. They're friends and neighbors. And they thought, you know what, my kids and my family live there. Let me live outside the district. That sounds good. The final bill had 48 different purposes. Head Start buses, that's not like police jurisdiction, right? Inmate feminine hygiene products, federal stimulus to inmates. Even had, if your local county sheriff got a pay raise, it was in this bill. I took umbrage to that particular part, filed a bill to change it. I hate police now. Good grief. It's no further thing from the truth, but anyway, it was an unconstitutional bill. It wasn't challenged. And by the way, when a bill is passed constitutionally or otherwise, it's the law of the land, and you better obey it unless someone challenges it and wins that court challenge. Okay, 48 different subjects. The original subject was police jurisdiction. Was the Constitution violated?
Yes.
Oh, you'd make great legislators. Yes, it contains some good stuff.
How can something get added to a bill that's not germane?
Because we can. We did it here. The speaker is in control. The members are in control. All it would take would be one member saying, I object. I want 4 of my members standing with me. We're going to call you on it. Very seldom does that happen.
So you're not objecting?
Oh,
They won't go to it.
That's funny. That's a great question. You know, before, since I was elected, in a special election, I missed the freshman tour. The grand freshman tour. Where they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars taking the freshmen on a tour of the state. Oh, this is what we need and why we need it. And we must appropriate money to continue this project or this project. They feed us well. They house us in pretty nice hotels. I missed it my first year. Well, I'd always heard that there was a former legislator who was pretty powerful, told freshmen that their job as a freshman legislator was to sit down and shut up. And I thought, that sounds kind of funny, but I don't think it's true. So I encouraged my, John Deal was the speaker at the time, my first full year. And I said, hey, can I go on the freshman tour with the newcoming guys? Yeah, go ahead. So I was standing in the back of the chamber when, I'll just tell you his name, Ron Richard was there. He was a former speaker, former president pro tem, powerful guy from the Joplin area. And he was standing in the front giving his 2 cents on what the responsibilities of a freshman legislator were. As I was leaning up against the back wall, he said, your job is to sit down and shut up. Thought it's true. It's true. And you know what? Most freshman legislators do. You know why? Oh, well, we don't know what to do. We're just learning the ropes. I mean, the speaker told me I could sit here. The speaker told me I could be on this committee. The speaker told me I get to pass a bill this year. But only if I sat down and shut up. It's true. So now you know, right? And now that you know, rhetorical question, what are you going to do about it? Okay, I'm liking that. That's rhetorical. Don't answer me right now. Let those things spin in your mind. Get your plan together. Talk to your leaders. Get your forces on the ground and march. Like what happened in February or March this past year when we killed Karoff. There were 300 and he didn't like it. And neither did the governor. Okay. Here's what really is funny and infuriating at the same time. You can't read this, but Shelley Keating, bless her heart, came to me. It was the third week, I think, that I was in session. So I was only there 4 weeks. She comes to me at the beginning of the 3rd week and says, Mike, what Legislator of the Year award do you want? What? She said, we're giving out Legislator of the Year awards. Which one do you want? I said, I don't know. What are you talking about? So what do you have open? She said, well, how about protecting personal freedoms? Oh, yeah, that fits pretty good.
Yeah.
So the next week, I'm called to the Speaker Tim Jones' office, pose for the picture. That's my certificate. Tim, what do I do with this? Well, this is for your re-election bid. So what do you want me to do with it? Tell your constituents. You're kidding me. I've been here 4 weeks. I'm the Legislator of the Year. For some reason, I kept it. That's why I've got the photo now. You know what? The next year, I got another one. It was a different topic. But here's my point. Don't be fooled. I saw the guys in my Senate district, these legislators, they're posting them on Facebook, and I'm thinking, oh, you've got to be kidding me. All these people, oh, great job. I knew you could do it. You don't have any idea. So, this will probably continue. And if it does, kindly ask them a question. What did you do to get that award? And then call the speaker and say, stop the shenanigans.
Yeah.
We got you. We know what you're doing. Stop it. Make sure the state knows it. I don't have a problem with it. You can use my stuff. I don't care. Anyway, I've talked more than I thought I would. Thank you so much for allowing me the time. And do we have time for a question or two? Okay, no questions? No questions.